Hey, this is Robert Dominguez with Bigfoot Club, and you're listening to Creepers Cryptid Paranormal Corner. I was just going to say, I tend to like Australian stories, like Yowie stories, better than I like North American Bigfoot stories. Steven and I, we don't call ourselves podcasters. We call ourselves cryptid sports entertainers.
That's excellent.
So
I've told Robert this before. I don't want to go to a paranormal place or a haunted place where there's some evil entities involved.
Yeah.
And sure as hell, this place had an evil entity apparently, but I didn't know that. I see it. The door's open, and I see like a dark figure, a shadow.
Right, guys. Welcome to Creepers Cryptid and Paranormal Corner. Today, I'm talking to Robert and Stephen Dominguez from Bigfoot Club. How you going?
How's it going?
we're good. Thanks for having us on, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, sweet.
Thank you.
What got you into doing the podcast? Where did it all begin?
I used to be a Bigfoot researcher for the Texas Bigfoot Research Center in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And so whenever I was doing that stuff, Steven was like 7. And so I would take him out, like whenever we would go do outings like in East Texas to do Bigfoot research, I would take him, he would tag along with me. And so we would go into the woods and stuff and just hang out and just do research. And so as I kind of got older, whenever you're with a group, John, sometimes they have like parameters or like rules and regulations that stuff you can't comment on or talk about. Like you can't talk about the paranormal, or you can't talk about portals or the woo that a lot of Bigfoot people talk about.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't allowed to talk about some of that stuff. And the podcast kind of came along later on. I said, you know what? I want to voice my opinion about stuff and stuff that I feel that I need to talk about. And so that's how, we started doing Bigfoot Club, because actually Steven was my first choice to do Bigfoot Club. But at the time he had twin boys. And so his scheduling was really, really not good. And so I had these other people come and do co-host with me. And, they were great. They were great people, and they're no longer a part of the podcast. And so as the boys got older, Steven had more time. And I just think with Steven and I, the podcast has taken off like, immensely. And we've tripled our downloads. And so that's kind of how we got started. That's the whole thing. Steven?
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit it right in the nose on that. I mean, yeah, we when you started doing it, I think I started a new job, and the boys were still toddlers, and I was still trying to figure out how to be a dad and to 2 kids nonetheless at the same time. So I just know that whenever he started doing the podcast, I can see mentally, like on the mental health side, he was doing a really good job, like, voicing his opinions and when you get to talk about something you love and something you're passionate about, you kind of go into another dimension or another realm.
Yeah, you do. I know exactly.
A place, a different place where you're in just your whole, if that makes sense. So the job I had at the time was very, very it challenged me mentally and spiritually and emotionally, and it put me in a very depressive state.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, we want to do one of the people that was on his show. He was like, hey, he's not going to be here. I need you to fill in. Could you fill in? We'll bring the stuff over to your apartment. I'm all like, yeah, sure. Why not? This will be my first time being on the show. And I remember just being and talking, and I didn't think about my job, how stressful it was. It just made me happy. So I was all like, wow, like this is actually really therapeutic.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, mate.
Yeah, so it's just it really opened up my eyes and just made me open just to be like, okay, well, we can just talk about stuff that we know and what we've experienced, and we can go from there. And unfortunately, those other 2 co-hosts, they dropped out, and I stepped up, and here we are now.
Yeah, he's killing it now. I know even when I come on your show, from going on to your show and doing an episode with you guys, I gained 500 subscribers in like the next month after it. It was awesome.
Wow.
You do such a good job, and everyone loves it, obviously, because they keep coming back and you just keep getting bigger and bigger. And yeah, easy.
I was going to say that I know whenever we went through our Australian run with you and Yowie Dan and Gary Lynn and Attila, I think we doubled our downloads in Australia. So
yeah,
so that we had tapped into that market that we normally don't tap into, and I said yes. So I was pretty happy with that. So I know, just talking to all you guys, it was a great feeling. That's probably like the best year we had, right, Steven?
Yeah, I believe so, and I think that run was it was awesome because it was like, okay, well, next week we got so and so, and we're like, oh, okay, we're just literally doing an Australian run, and every person we've talked to has been amazing, awesome, and we had good chemistry with them, and you guys are just funny too.
Yeah,
you have a good sense of humor.
I've got a couple of mates that I've done interviews and that with too, that you can have on the show too, and they're bloody good. So it's good though, because we get to tell our story to you guys over there, and then you guys fill us in with stuff that's going on over there.
I was just going to say, I tend to like Australian stories, like Yowie stories, better than I like North American Bigfoot stories. I don't know why, but it seems like Yowie stories have a little bit more character. I don't know why, but they just do. Like most of the ones some of the stories I've read and I've heard, I said, man, these are like really interesting. Like most of the the stuff in like North America, you see like a Bigfoot cross a road, or they see him like peeking through a window, and like in Australia, the Yowies like take swings at cars, when cars pass by, because they're pissed off at a car. And so I think stuff like that is just like, I don't know, something about the southern hemisphere and Yowies, they're just stranger down there. So I've always enjoyed that.
I think it comes down to, it'd be our stories and encounters, and that'd be more like if you guys interviewed like a native Indian and get their stories, because I don't know if you've heard, Sarah would have spoke to you about in Australia, the Aboriginals always have a story they talk about with the Yowies having a treaty with them. They actually used to connect and work side by side back thousands of years ago. Every Aboriginal you talk to, elder and that, you mention Yowie, and they all talk about it. They know that it's not even like they might exist. They know that they exist and everything. And have you ever heard the story about the treaty?
No.
Well, there was a treaty apparently back thousands of years ago that the Yowies would look after the forest and the Aboriginals looked after the land. And when the Europeans come and settled, that treaty was broken between the two because the Aboriginals didn't uphold the whole look after the land. They lost the land to the white people. So after that, the Yowies and the Aboriginals, they didn't talk anymore. They clashed. So that could be why it's different over here, because the Yowies know what everyone did, and that could be why the encounters are so different to what you guys have over there. I've heard a lot of elders talk about the treaty that was there, and so that could be a reason why it's so different to what you guys are experiencing over there.
Huh. I've never heard that one. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Very
so
interesting.
Robert, what got you guys?
I know my first experience.
Yeah, you're right.
What was that, John? I couldn't hear you.
I was just about to say, what got you into going to look for Bigfoot?
No, I was just going to.
Like, what was your first experience? You remember? I was about to say say that. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. What kind of got me into Bigfoot was when I was a kid. My dad took me to a drive-in theater to go see The Legend of Boggy Creek, and it's a movie that's based in Arkansas, the Fouke Monster.
Yeah.
And so I was a little kid. I was probably like 5 or 6, and I was watching it, and I was terrified, but I would always like peek up to look. And ever since then, after that, I started like drawing pictures pictures of it, doing book reports. I'd go to the library and I could like show you exactly where all the like the cryptid books were at. I would just run to that one corner of the library and just like try to see what book was not checked out yet. And so I would do that. And it was just like one of those things. And like I was at work one day, and this was in like the late 90s, and I just typed in Texas Bigfoot, and it brought up this one guy named Luke Gross, and he was in Newcomerstown, Ohio, doing I think the 10th annual Bigfoot conference. And so I emailed him and I said, hey, how does one contribute to the Texas Bigfoot? Because I didn't think there was any Bigfoot in Texas. And he wrote me back and said, hey, I want to call you. This is my number. And so we talked on the phone for like 4 hours, and he was forming Texas Bigfoot research. So I went to him, and I went to some guy's house in East Dallas. I didn't even know who he was. It was just a bunch of us just meeting up and just going to form a group. And I remember I was like in my 20s, and my mom was like real mad at me. You know, she says, why are you going to go meet some strangers? You don't even know. And I went out and I met them, and we formed Texas Bigfoot research. And then we started doing Bigfoot, because I didn't know. I go, there's Bigfoot in Texas? They go, yeah, East Texas. So we would go out and like I would experience stuff. I've never seen a Bigfoot. Let me just say it, John. I've never seen a Bigfoot, but I've seen stuff. I've heard. I've seen like tracks and tree breaks, and I've been screamed at and whistled and hooted at, and so I can't. You know, I can't say that I've seen one, but I've heard a lot of stuff that I can't explain.
For us in Australia, different for me because I always research everything. I always know what places. I've always wanted to go to Texas, so I always looked up stuff. But for the average people in Australia, you hear Texas, you think like desert, like just country, like with horses and cows, and there's no forests or anything like that. Like that's how people see it. You know what I mean? Over here, so when people do talk about like Texas Bigfoot, you're like, what are they doing out in the sand? Like. But because I've looked it up in that before, and I know that there's actually plenty of forest for them to live in. So
because like the east part of Texas, it's nothing but trees. It's called the Big Thicket, and there's the Sam Houston National Park, the David Crockett National Park, the Angelina National Forest. So there's lots of woods, and I've actually researched with this one guy from Washington State, and they got redwoods over in Washington State. And he tells me that East Texas is thicker than Washington State.
Yeah, right.
He says it's the thickest shit he's ever seen. Oh, am I allowed to cuss on here?
Yeah, it's all good. Maybe just don't drop the C-bomb.
Sorry about that.
Anything but the C-bomb should be right.
Yeah. Okay. But Texas is the only state.
We're allowed to swear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas is the only state that has like forests. They have like you said, deserts. They got mountains and they got ocean. They got like a coastal thing, and then they have plain flat prairie too. So they have a little bit of everything.
Well, that's what you think of for Australians. When you think of Texas, you think of desert and like the flat plains where there's nothing around. You don't think of mountains and forests, and so it's crazy when you first hear like, oh, the Bigfoot in Texas. It's like, what are they? Like a tan color so they can hide in the sand and that. But so you went out plenty of times with them and took Steven a few times.
Yeah, he took me a couple times, and I think what got me into Bigfoot is that I think
they come in all different black.
But I think what like got me into Bigfoot was I guess like Robert already joined the group, and he didn't really tell that to me I don't think he told me. I just remember you got me that black book, Robert. Do you remember? You know what book I'm talking about? Where it actually has the shadow of a Bigfoot, and it's like everything paranormal and cryptid. It's like that's how I figured out about the Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster, the New Jersey Devil, stuff that like I never thought of that people have supposedly seen or witnessed and stuff. And what got me was, I was like, okay, there's a Bigfoot. Okay, so what is a Bigfoot? What is a Sasquatch? It was a real detailed book, and I still have that book, Robert. I don't know if I told you, I still have it. I gotta find it. It's in the bookshelf. Nice. And I came across it the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, this is the book that he gave me, and this is literally the book that got me into paranormal stuff and Bigfoot stuff.
Awesome.
And, yeah, so I mean, that's basically how that got me for where I am today now. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know before we started recording, you were talking about you went out on a paranormal night recently.
Yeah, we
how'd that go?
I'll let Robert start that one.
Well, we were meeting up with the Goo Gals Paranormal, and the Goo Gals is these two girls, Jennifer Reuter and Jennifer Rose, two lovely ladies. They're super badasses. They're all female group from San Antonio, and so they were coming up to Cleburne. Cleburne's like an hour out from Dallas Fort Worth. That's where we live. Yep. And they were doing this one house called the 209 Mystery House. It's in Cleburne. Was I think built in like the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah.
And so supposedly there's a lot of paranormal activity. And so we meet up with them to have dinner, and then we go over to, because they were going to do paranormal stuff for that night. And we didn't plan on going because I didn't bring any gear at all. I didn't bring any kind of paranormal gear. And then they asked us while we were having dinner, because, hey, you want to come over to the house and check it out with us? And I go, yeah, sure. So I was a little hesitant because, like I said before, you know me, John, I in 2021, I went through like a big, I was paralyzed and I had to learn how to walk. And so I'm a firm believer that you have to be spiritually, mentally, physically, strong to do anything paranormal. So we end up going to this house, and there's this lady with I think, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Wandering Paranormal, right?
Wandering
Paranormal was the lady. I think her name was Tracy. Do you remember that?
Yes. Wandering Soul Paranormal.
So we get there, John, and the Goo Gals were talking to her, and she was explaining stuff in the house, what rooms. It was a 2-story house. There's probably like 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms in the bottom, and probably like 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms on top. And so it was a really narrow house. And so as soon as we get there, I had a H2N Zoom, and it's an omnidirectional mic. So I had that going. And then like as they were talking and she was explaining all the rooms on the first floor, I heard like someone walking upstairs, and there was nobody upstairs. And I go, okay. And so I kind of like point to Steven, and I kind of mouth, I go, there's something upstairs. And then he looks at me and goes, what? So, and then we decide to go upstairs, and I'm going to let Steven tell this part. So go ahead, Steven.
So we're going upstairs, and the house is so old, the foundation, the floor, it made you feel like you were tilting to the right, Robert?
Yeah, right.
Like that was my experience on that, and I felt unbalanced and uneasy. So I've told Robert this before. I go, I don't want to go to a paranormal place or a haunted place where there's some evil entities involved.
Yeah.
And sure as hell, this place had an evil entity apparently, but I didn't know that. Did not know that. So we're going up the stairs, and I'm the last one, and everyone's going up the stairs, and everyone's already on top of the second floor. I'm still on the second flooring for the second set of stairs to go up, and I could see the rooms. There to the right, there was a bathroom. Ahead of me, there's another bedroom, and then there's another bedroom over here. And the far left, there's a dark room. It's a bedroom.
Yeah.
The far left, I just happened to look, and I see it. The door's open, and I see like a dark figure, a shadow. And I couldn't really I go, is that because I could see the window. There's a window too in that room. Yeah. And I was like, is that a curtain? What is that? Like, and then I could see it slowly just move out of the door frame to the other side of that room. And I looked at Robert, I go, really? And I go, Robert, there's something in that room. He's like, what? There's something in that room. So we like kind of walk, like get upstairs and go to that room. And then Tracy was like, so you saw something in that room? Yeah, that's a nasty room. He's like that. apparently whatever is in there is racist, doesn't like Mexicans. I was like, oh, that's great.